Hello, welcome to this episode of Hampton Roads Business Live. Today, it's my pleasure to have with us Kimberly Phillips from the law firm of Phillips and Peters. Good to have you here.
Thank you, Mr. Graham. It's nice to be here.
Call me Rory, please.
Okay.
Let me first of all start off that Phillips and Peters is a family law firm.
Yes, it is.
All right. So that's we've had a number of attorneys on, but we haven't had anybody from family law. So that's a good area to choose. Tell us about what that encompasses.
Well, family law encompasses many different issues that touch the family. Mainly, it would be divorce, custody, child support, spousal support, adoptions, equitable distribution, which in Virginia, that's the division of property and debt, as well as post-divorce issues of enforcing or modifying the final decree or final orders regarding custody. Okay.
And now your firm, I know when I talked with you a little bit on the phone, why don't you tell us why you got involved in this, in this type of law?
In family law? Mm-hmm. Well, I have an education background, was a teacher, formerly a teacher, and when I went to law school, I went a little bit later in life. I was older than most of the students and had some life experiences that were diverse from the average law student. And I was introduced to a family law firm or a family law division of a full-service firm. And I worked there as a law student, and I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed working with families, helping families when they are at their most stressful time, when life is changing for them, and to become involved and help those families move forward. And so being a family law attorney helps, my background is helpful in that area and the experiences that I had.
Okay, so you enjoyed helping people in that time of need. And I would imagine that most of the things that you rattled off there or that you deal with are pretty challenging times for people. I mean,
Yes.
They're probably not at their best, you know.
They're often not at their best. They're very stressed, and you have to be sensitive to that and understand that in that situation they have a difficult time retaining information, making good decisions for themselves. Often they're just confused. Perhaps they've never paid bills on their own. They've been married. They either went from their parents' home to their spouse's home, and they haven't had to make some of life decisions on their own, and this is a scary step forward, and they need assistance, not only legal assistance, but often some counseling, and we have different resources that we refer folks to.
Okay. Now you mentioned in this that we were talking about they're stressed and may not retain information and all. And I know when we talked, you said that the number one complaint that you that you've heard over the years has been communication. And so you determined that with your firm, you were going to make communication a top priority.
Yes.
So tell us what you've done with that.
Well, as you said, Rory, the number one complaint that attorneys receive is that your client can't get in touch with you. And we've heard that throughout the years, and that's been a complaint among law attorneys from the beginning of time. And as litigators, we're often in court, and so we're not in the office and we're not available to speak on the phone, or if an emergency situation arises, we're not often at the office because we're in court. So in order to manage the expectations of the clients and have them understand what the process is in the office, we always have a paralegal that's assigned to your case. And after you retain us, that paralegal sends out an introductory email, introduces herself, lets you know that this is who you would be contacting as well as me. Anytime you email our office, you copy the paralegal as well as the attorney. And when we are unavailable, when we're out of the office, then the paralegal is in the loop and is able to communicate with the client. Ms. Phillips is in court, or she's out to a meeting, or she's in with a client, and that the next available time would be Tuesday at 2, could I put you on her book? And that way the client feels like they have some control and they're not stressed about where is my attorney, I need to speak to that person and they're not calling me back. And it's just an education process and explaining to them how the office works and what they can expect. And we explain that to them at the very first meeting when they come and consult with us, so they understand and they can manage the time best.
So I would assume that I believe I had read or you had told me that the paralegal is like a triage nurse.
Yes.
So to speak.
Very much so.
They're kind of keeping everything rolling while you're not there.
Yes.
And keeping everybody informed. Okay, well that's good. So let's, you rattled off, I said rattled off, I'm sorry. You made listed a number of things that family law encompasses. Did you want to give us a little better definition of what, or example maybe of what that would be? When you say divorce, are you handling it from the very first talk of divorce, or do they have to be separated a period of time, or do they, or something has to be filed, or?
Well, clients come to me at all stages of a divorce.
Well, I've been married 39 years, so I have no clue about divorce.
Well, hopefully you won't need my services.
I hope not.
But a typical divorce client may come in and they are considering divorce. In other words, they have maybe not have communicated their interest in a divorce to their spouse yet.
Oh.
And they are seeking information. They want to know what their rights are. They want to know what the process may be before they decide if that's what they want to do. So that's one consult we may have. Sometimes they come to us and they've been served with a divorce complaint.
Oh.
And that's a pleading that starts a case, and they have a certain amount of time to respond, which would be 21 days. They come to us and they want to know, what does this mean? What do I need to do? What's the next step for me? We have some consults that'll come in that have been served with a divorce complaint and they didn't want a divorce, and they want to know how to stop it, or they want to know how to prolong the process. Sometimes we get them and they've already filed a divorce complaint for themselves, and they're at the stage of hearings or discovery. Discovery is a mechanism for gathering information. Attorneys will send out interrogatories, which are questions that you ask the other side, and requests for production of documents, asking for paperwork, basically tax returns, bank statements, partnership agreements, so forth.
Do you find that most divorces are run pretty smoothly, or is it really contentious?
It can be both. Oftentimes it depends on the stage that the parties are in, the married couple. If they've been separated for a period of time and some of the emotions have died down, and they're willing to work towards settlement, then it goes fairly smoothly. If they are relatively new to the separation and emotions are still high, it is often more contentious. And part of what we do at Phillips and Peters is we try to manage the unrealistic expectations perhaps that a party has, that they believe, for instance, if their spouse is committing adultery, or they believe they're committing adultery, sometimes they come in with the false expectation that that means they deserve 100% of the property and all the support. And so we try to educate them to what would be the likely outcome if the case were put before a judge. But at Phillips and Peters, we've tried very hard to work towards settlement. We're settlement minded. We started the firm with an eye towards helping families move forward, whatever that's going to look like for them, but they're not left treading water and stuck. And so sometimes that requires many different hats depending on whatever process, whatever stage they're at in their divorce cycle.
When you developed your firm, I noticed that you, even in your logo, which is a little bit unusual for a law firm, you have some branding, specific branding in that. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. When Corinne Peters and I decided to form the firm, we wanted to make it unique. We wanted to develop a logo, a symbol that would be recognizable to the general public. We selected a tree, or we gave our design person the concept of a tree, which we believe symbolizes family and strong families. and that many law firms are just have their names. They don't have a symbol or something that there's just easily recognizable. And when we started the firm in 2010, we wanted to be the premier go-to firm. We located it in Norfolk, which we believe was centrally located to all the cities, because we serve all the cities: Virginia Beach, Chesapeake, Norfolk, Portsmouth, Newport News, Hampton.
So Peninsula too, then, yeah.
Peninsula, Eastern Shore, yes. And
Okay.
so that it's an effort to set us apart from the more traditional law firms in the area.
All right. I know that you do the list that you gave me included a positive one, which was adoption.
Yes.
Okay. So we talked about divorce. So let's talk about adoption a little bit. Is it really hard to adopt somebody, a child?
Well, adoption is one of the more pleasant areas of the law that we practice, and it's not something that comes through the door every day. We are not an adoption agency, and we're not a placing agency. In other words, we aren't finding babies to place with couples. Typically what happens is an adoptive couple may come to us. A birth mother has already selected them, so that'd be a parental placement adoption, and we are dealing with the legalities of finalizing the adoption for the couple that are adopting the baby. So it's a multi-step process. It involves 2 different courts. It involves a district court where we have the biological parents' rights terminated, and then to the circuit court we finalize the adoption. And it's a blessing to be involved in somebody's family when they're growing.
You're creating it. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
and we've done several step-parent adoptions, and that sometimes that's contentious because the biological parent that would be losing their rights doesn't consent. In that case, that involves quite a bit of litigation. It's very fact-specific, but many times it is by consent, and the parent will consent to the child being adopted by the new spouse.
Okay. And you work a lot with the military,
Yes, well, as you know,
obviously, in this area.
Hampton Roads is a large military community. Fortunately, I've been a military dependent my entire life. My father served 30 years in the Navy, and my husband's finishing out 25 years in the Army. So I'm very familiar with the military lingo, the concepts, the issues that arise in military families with moving, changing schools and school districts for children, military retirement, the division of that. Virginia, in our equitable distribution statutes, allow for a division of the military retirement, and there is a formula to calculate that, and issues arise with the service person if they've been rated as disabled, and whether or not the spouse can have a portion of that. Do they agree to it? Are we going to have to litigate it? We are also familiar with pay tables, and that's the defense military. It's DFAS, Defense Finance and Accounting System, where they provide pay tables. They're published online, so we know how to calculate someone's income. For instance, if a non-service person comes in and asks us, well, if I separate from my spouse, how much child support will I get? And if they don't know how much their spouse makes, the service person, we're able to look that up based on the information that's posted. And we know how to figure it out based on different entitlements, housing allowances, and so forth.
Okay. And you handle support issues.
Yes.
Was that something you were just talking about? That's figuring out
Child support. Virginia has statutory guidelines of child support, and those guidelines are presumed correct. Of course, it's a rebuttable presumption. In other words, if there's sufficient evidence to indicate to the court that they should deviate from the child support guidelines, either above or below. For example, if you have a family member, say a child that has special needs or a special medical condition for which there's extraordinary medical bills, oftentimes the courts will deviate and award child support above the guidelines to assist with that.
Okay. All right. And you also handle post-divorce things,
Yes.
such as?
Well, after a couple are divorced, and the court enters a final decree, a final order that resolves their marital issues, whether that's custody or support. As time goes by, things change. Family members remarry, new children are born, people lose their jobs, and so there are enforcement issues where if a court has awarded a spouse some spousal support and the paying spouse stops paying, then post-divorce we have to go in on a show cause and try to enforce the order.
Right.
Or if that spouse has simply lost their job and they don't have the ability to pay, sometimes they'll file a petition to reduce their support. And so we go in and we argue that. Oftentimes we try to negotiate a settlement prior to going to court. That's always the goal. But post-divorce issues.
What is uncontested divorce? I see that term in advertisements. You see it. I see that under divorce attorneys. You always see uncontested. Does that mean that both of you want it and you don't want any support or don't want any alimony? You just want to get rid of each other?
Not necessarily. I would describe uncontested as when two parties sit down and we hash out an agreement, and we title that agreement a property settlement agreement. Some attorneys title it a stipulation agreement, where the parties sit down and they decide support, custody, division of property, and so forth. When they do that and they have a signed agreement, that lets the court know that they don't have to make any decisions on behalf of this couple other than to grant them a divorce if the statutory separation period has been met. Mm-hmm. And in Virginia, if you have children, that's 1 year of continuous uninterrupted separation. If you don't have children and you have a signed agreement, it's 6 months of continuous separation.
Okay. All right. Well, is there anything I haven't touched on that you'd like to talk about?
I think that's it.
Okay. Well, good. I did a good job then.
Thank you.
So if you find yourself in need of a family attorney for any of the issues that we've just talked about, then please consider giving Kimberly a call at Phillips and Peters. They're in Norfolk. The contact information is at the end of this video and on the bottom of this page, and I'm sure that they could give you the legal advice that you're looking for. And they just schedule a consultation?
Yes, they would just call and schedule
They could
that.
schedule a consultation. So there you go. All right. Well, thank you very much for coming in today.
Thank you, Rory.
All right. Thank you.